Well, guys, it is now time for my Week 8 picks of the 2024 NFL season. As last week I went 10-5, there was one point before the night games I was 10-2 and looking really good, and then I got all the night games wrong. That was really irritating. Sunday night and both Monday night games. But still wins record, and of course here's the regular season stands and the playoff stands of the season end of the day. In the AFC, it's the Chiefs with the bye, with Broncos at Texans, Colts at Ravens, and Steelers at Bills. And the NFC, it's the Lions with the bye, with Bears at Commanders, Packers at Seahawks, and Vikings at Falcons. And my Super Bowl prediction is the Lions over the Chiefs. No, not the Chiefs, the Texans. There we go. All right, so now it's time for my Week 8 picks. Starting off with Thursday night, as it's the Vikings at the Rams for the first time since 2018. As the Rams won the last two, the Vikings haven't beaten them since 2015. And they haven't won on the road since 2014. So the Vikings lost their first game against the Lions, got their first loss of the year. Although they still played pretty competitively, they just couldn't get the job done. Once again, another game where Darnold did not play as good as he did at the beginning of the year. Although he did have a touchdown, he just played like mid overall. Meanwhile, the Rams got a win over the Raiders and all that, and maybe Cooper Kupp will come back soon because they have no real receivers as they're really struggling. But I'm going to pick the Vikings for this one. And then we get to the Sunday action as it's the Ravens at the Browns. As the Browns won the last one, the Ravens haven't won since 2023. And the Browns haven't won at home since 2022. So the Ravens spanked and obliterated the Buccaneers as they have one of the best offenses in the league, yet their defense is crap. Where did this Ravens come from? This is unusual for Ravens. It's supposed to be the other way around. No offense and all defense. As they have one of the best offenses in the league as they've now won 5 in a row. Meanwhile, the Browns lost to the Bengals, and fortunately for them, Watson suffered a season-ending injury once again. Gee, maybe signing him and doing that big trade years ago was well worth it. So yeah, as they're on the verge of having a worse record than last year, nothing's going right for them. The only thing I would say is that even if the Browns are struggling, they usually play the Ravens competitively good the last 10 years when they host the Ravens, even when they're struggling. So I wouldn't underestimate them still, but I'm going to pick the Ravens for this one. And then it's the Titans at the Lions for the first time since 2016. As the Titans won the last 6, the Lions haven't beaten them since 1995, and they haven't won at home since 1986. As the Titans, of course, lost to the Bills. It was weird because they were up 10-0 at one point, looked like, ooh, maybe they would put up a good fight against the Bills. And then they went on to get shut out 34-0 afterwards, as I would expect, as they have one of the worst offenses in the league. Although their defense is still pretty good. I wonder if that's still because of the bye, though. Meanwhile, the Lions beat the Vikings, give them their first losses. They now lead the NFC completely. They have the best record in the league along with the Vikings. As all around, they're probably the best team in the NFC, if not maybe the league outright. Although their pass defense is kind of really bad. But I'm going to pick the Lions for this one. Then it's a big one in the AFC South. It's the Colts at the Texans. With the Texans have won the last 2. The Colts haven't beaten them since 2023. And the Texans haven't won at home since 2019. So the Colts won a defensive struggle against the Dolphins, managed to get it done. Richardson just barely played like game manager. He needs to still play a lot better. Meanwhile, the Texans lost to the Packers in a very competitive game. Just couldn't get it done in the end and all that. This is very big because this is division lead potentially on the line somewhat. Although I think the Texans still might hold it even if they do lose because they have the split with the Colts. I'm going to pick the Texans for this one, but we'll see. The Texans haven't beaten the Colts since 2019 at home, so we'll see what happens. And then it's the Packers at the Jaguars for the first time since 2016, as the Packers won the last 3. The Jaguars haven't beaten them since 2008. So the Packers beat the Texans in a competitive game, as all of a sudden now their offense starting to look really good, although Love has still thrown a lot of interceptions that are really concerning and such, as they've won 3 in a row. The Jaguars got a needed victory over the Patriots to save their season as they're back home. Their offense is starting to look a little bit better, but their defense is really bad. But they're going to have to go up against a really good Packers team, and I'm going to pick the Packers to win this one. And then it's the Cardinals at the Dolphins for the first time since 2016, as the Dolphins won the last 2. The Cardinals haven't beaten them since 2012, and they haven't won in Miami since 2004. So the Cardinals beat the Chargers in a defensive struggle as they're on the verge of tying their record from last year. Like, the Cardinals are being sneakily solid this year at the moment, somewhat. Meanwhile, the Dolphins lost a close one to the Colts as, again, I know it's probably influenced by the bye too, but it's really weird how now all of a sudden they look like they have like an elite defense and their offense is now all of a sudden horrible. Oh my goodness. Nothing going right for them. And I'm actually going to pick the Cardinals for this one. They've actually been pretty surprising this year. Alright, then it's the Jets at the Patriots. As the Jets won the last two, the Patriots haven't beaten them since 2023. And they haven't won at home since 2022. As the Jets got spanked by the Steelers as Rodgers had another horrible game where it looked like they were actually doing really good against the Steelers at first. Meanwhile, the Patriots lost to the Jaguars. They got spanked. Even though, once again, Drake May played pretty solid. He has 5 touchdowns, so I think 2 picks so far. Not bad. He's definitely playing good so far in his first 2 games. Now, this one's really tough. Although the Jets did destroy the Patriots early in the year, now they have Drake May, and Rodgers is struggling. So, this is a tough one. I think I'll still pick the Jets because they at least have a defense, and I still trust Rodgers. But, man, Drake May's making it really tough. I can see it going to the Patriots, too. And then, once again, a big NFC South matchup. It's the Falcons at the Buccaneers. The Falcons won the last one. The Buccaneers haven't beaten them since 2023. As, once again, just like the Thursday night game a few weeks ago, they are both fighting for the number 1 seed in the division. The Falcons got spanked by the Seahawks, and the Buccaneers got destroyed by the Ravens. And to make matters worse, they lost Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, I think, for several weeks. So now they lost both their receivers. That's going to hurt us, even if they have one of the best offensive in the league. Their defense is horrible. Oh, man. I don't feel fully comfortable for doing this, but without Godwin and Evans, that's going to make it very difficult for me to not pick them. So I'm actually going to pick the Falcons for this one, unless the Buccaneers somehow show they can win despite not having their 2 receivers. They're having the same thing the Rams had. Then it's the Eagles at the Bengals for the first time since 2016, as no one won the last time because it was tied. So the Eagles spanked the Giants, and they have one of the league's best defenses. They now won 2 in a row. The Bengals also won 2 in a row off the Giants and the Browns as well, although the game was a lot closer than it should have been. But hey, they still won 2 in a row, as this is a big game, as both the Eagles need to win to keep up with the Commanders, and the Bengals need to win to keep up with the Ravens and Steelers. This could be a very interesting game. Who do you trust more? And I still trust the Bengals more, so I'm going to pick them, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles get it. Alright, then it's the 4 p.m. game, starting off with the Saints at Chargers for the first time since 2016. As the Saints won the last 4, the Chargers haven't beaten them since 2004. The Saints, of course, got destroyed by the Broncos on Thursday night, as everything's just dead now with Derek Carr. All that momentum they had is all gone, even though their offense is still pretty solid. Their defense is horrendous. Meanwhile, the Chargers lost to the Cardinals in defensive struggle because of the bye. Their defense, once again, still looks like it's one of the best in the leagues, and their offense looks like one of the worst in the leagues. And again, it's going to come down to the offense, especially Herbert. He's just not playing as explosively as he did his first 2 years. And he needs to do that if the Chargers want to actually be winning games consistently. But they're not struggling like the Saints, so I'm going to pick the Chargers for this one. And then it's a big out-of-conference matchup, even though I don't think it really is. It's the Bills at the Seahawks for the first time since 2016. The Bills won the last one. The Seahawks haven't beaten them since 2016. And the Bills haven't won in Seattle since 2004. So the Bills have now won 2 in a row after they dismantled the Titans. And here's something I found too. I'll look up his stats. Did you all know Allen has not thrown an interception yet? He's like 17 total touchdowns and no interception. It's insane. Absolutely insane. And the Seahawks got a very convincing victory against the Falcons. Their defense, once again, is all of a sudden now looking really good. Their offense, not so much. A little interesting. I'm pretty sure their offense was better overall. But yeah. Curious to see how it's going to go, but I'm, of course, going to pick the Bills for this one. And then a big NFC matchup, as it's the Bears at the Commanders for the first time since 2019. As the Bears won the last one, the Commanders haven't beaten them since 2022, and they haven't won at home since 2013. The Bears, of course, are coming off their bye after they destroyed the Jaguars, and Caleb Williams put up 4 touchdowns. Insane, as they now won 3 in a row. Meanwhile, the Commanders destroyed and obliterated the Panthers to improve their record from last year, but it did cost them because Jayden Daniels got hurt, and I don't know if he's never looked up yet if he's even going to be playing this week. And of course they have Marcus Mariota, but honestly, even if Daniels did play, I still think I'm going to pick the Bears for this one because they have a defense that can challenge them. Caleb Williams now is starting to play really good, so I'm picking the Bears for this one regardless if Daniels plays. And then it's the Broncos at the Panthers for the first time since 2016. As the Panthers won the last one, the Broncos haven't beaten them since 2020. And the Panthers have never won in Denver. So the Broncos, of course, got destroyed by the Commanders, and Andy Dalton got injured in an off-game injury. So Bryce Young is back. We'll see how he does now after being benched the last few weeks as the Panthers once again look like they're dog shit and all that. The Broncos, meanwhile, obliterated the Saints thanks to their defense. They have one of the best defenses in the league. Their offense does a lot of work. And they've won 4 of their last 5. Still being competitive in the AFC right now in terms of playoffs. And I'm going to pick the Broncos for this one. And that's the Chiefs at the Raiders. As the Chiefs won the Raiders won the last one. The Chiefs haven't beaten them since 2023. And the Raiders haven't won at home against them since 2017. The Chiefs are trying to go 7-0 for the first time since 2023 as well, as the only undefeated team left. So the Chiefs spanked the 49ers, but once again, it was mostly their defense, as Mahomes is just playing worse and worse like each week. He's thrown no passing touchdowns and 3 interceptions these last 3 weeks. He has more interceptions than touchdowns. He tied the league for the most interceptions. He is just not good this year. But they're somehow winning games despite of it. It's really surprising and kind of annoying how they're getting away with this and all that. It's pretty pathetic. Meanwhile, the Raiders, of course, got spanked by the Rams as they now lost 3 in a row. Aiden O'Connell got injured and all that. Nothing's going right for them, and I'm going to pick the Chiefs for this one. And then it's a big Sunday night matchup. Really important for both teams, as it's the Cowboys at the 49ers for the second year in a row. The 49ers won the last one. The Cowboys haven't beaten them since 2020. And they haven't won in Santa Clara since 2017. So the Cowboys, of course, are on their bye after they got completely and utterly destroyed by the Lions 2 weeks ago, as no one is going good on their team. The only thing saving them is that they're undefeated on the road. But man, they are just horrible this year. Meanwhile, the 49ers are also struggling as they got spanked by the Chiefs. And as much as I shat on Mahomes earlier, Turdy Purdy was even worse. He had 0 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And of course, no, I think he had 2 rushing touchdowns as well. It's funny how they both had their touchdowns from running it into the end zone. They still have one of the best offenses in the league, but defense is pretty mid and just nothing's going right for them. Now it comes down to who do you trust more. And I still think I trust the 49ers more in this one, so I'm going to pick them. And then it's Monday night, which shouldn't have even been on the list, as it's the Giants at the Steelers for the first time since 2016. As the Steelers won the last 3, the Giants haven't beaten them since 2008. As the Giants, of course, got destroyed by the Eagles. Nothing else to say there. Meanwhile, the Steelers spanked the Jets as they actually started Russell Wilson. I did not know they were going to start Russell Wilson before I made my picks last week. I actually don't think I would agree with that. I thought Fields was doing pretty good. But Wilson played good, and looks like they're probably going to start him until he's injured or whatever. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I'm going to pick the Steelers for this one, of course. Alright, so those are my picks for Week 8. I cannot wait for Vikings at Rams tonight. So my picks are the Vikings over the Rams, the Ravens over the Browns, the Lions over the Titans, the Texans over the Colts, the Packers over the Jaguars, the Cardinals over the Dolphins, the Jets over the Patriots, the Falcons over the Buccaneers, the Bengals over the Eagles, the Chargers over the Saints, the Bills over the Seahawks, the Bears over the Commanders, the Broncos over the Panthers, the Chiefs over the 49ers, the Rams, no, the Raiders, Chiefs over the Raiders, the 49ers over the Cowboys, and the Steelers over the Giants. Alright, so that wraps up here. See you all next time for my Week 9 picks.